In the bustling courts of the Jerusalem temple, a profound question arose, echoing through the ages. A lawyer, an expert in religious law, approached Jesus seeking clarity amidst the complexities of the Jewish faith. "Teacher," he inquired, "which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Mark 12:28. This seemingly simple question held within it the weight of eternal significance. The religious leaders of the day, threatened by Jesus' growing popularity, lay in wait, hoping to trap him in his words. Yet Jesus, undeterred and full of grace, saw through their schemes and used the lawyer's question as an opportunity to unveil a profound truth. The lawyer's question, though seemingly straightforward, carried within it a deeper layer of complexity. The Jewish law, as meticulously detailed in the Torah, contained a multitude of commandments, 613 to be precise. These commandments governed every aspect of Jewish life. The sheer volume and intricacy of these laws naturally led to debates and disagreements among religious scholars regarding their relative importance. Jesus, recognizing the weight of the question and the lawyer's genuine desire for understanding, did not shy away from providing a clear and definitive answer. He chose to highlight two commandments, merging them into one overarching principle that would encapsulate the entirety of the law and the prophets. Jesus' response to the lawyer's question was both profound and transformative. He didn't simply choose one commandment from the many, but instead encapsulated the essence of the entire law in two interconnected commands. Quoting from Deuteronomy 6:5, Jesus declared, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength." This, Jesus proclaimed, was the first and greatest commandment. But Jesus didn't stop there. He went on to add a second commandment, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself," Mark 12:31. In Jesus' eyes, loving God and loving others were not separate entities but two sides of the same coin. Love the Lord your God. This is a command that transcends time and culture, a call to devotion that echoes through the ages. The command to love God with all one's heart, soul, and strength was not a novel concept introduced by Jesus. It was deeply rooted in the traditions and teachings of the Jewish faith, a cornerstone of their spiritual practice. It was enshrined in the Shema, a central prayer recited by devout Jews throughout the ages. This prayer, found in the Torah, calls for a love that is all-encompassing, a devotion that touches every part of one's being. Yet, Jesus breathed new life into this ancient command, infusing it with a depth and urgency that resonated deeply with his listeners. He emphasized that this love was not just a ritualistic obligation but a heartfelt commitment. To love God with all one's heart signified a complete and unwavering devotion. It meant that every emotion, every desire, and every passion should be aligned with the will and heart of God. It meant aligning one's desires, affections, and passions with the will and heart of God. This kind of love is not passive. It is active and intentional, requiring constant reflection and dedication. The heart, in biblical understanding, represented the core of one's being. It was seen as the seat of emotions, thoughts, and intentions. Loving God with all one's soul spoke to the intellectual and volitional aspects of human existence. It involved a deep commitment to understanding God's nature and his ways. To love God with all one's soul implied a commitment to knowing him and understanding his ways. It required a dedication to study, reflection, and the pursuit of wisdom. Finally, loving God with all one's strength encompassed the physical and practical dimensions of life. It meant that every action, every effort, and every resource should be dedicated to serving God. It meant dedicating one's time, energy, and resources to serving God and advancing his kingdom. This love is expressed through acts of kindness, service, and the pursuit of justice, reflecting God's love in tangible ways. With all your heart, soul, and mind. Jesus' emphasis on loving God with all one's heart, soul, and strength highlighted the comprehensive nature of true discipleship. It was not a compartmentalized faith, relegated to certain hours of the week or specific areas of life. Rather, it was an all-encompassing surrender, a complete yielding of oneself to the lordship of Christ. This radical call to love God wholeheartedly challenged the prevailing religious climate of Jesus' day. Jesus emphasized the inner transformation, the renewal of the heart, as the foundation for genuine righteousness. The second is like it. Having established the primacy of loving God, Jesus then introduced the second commandment, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." This was not just a suggestion but a profound directive that carried immense weight. This command, Jesus asserted, was like the first, implying an inherent and inseparable connection between the two. The love for God and the love for one's neighbor were intertwined, each feeding and sustaining the other. Loving one's neighbor was not a separate or optional addendum, but a natural outflow of a heart transformed by the love of God. It was a reflection of divine love manifesting in human relationships. The concept of loving one's neighbor was not foreign to Jesus' audience. They were familiar with the idea from their own scriptures and traditions. However, Jesus expanded the definition of neighbor beyond the confines of one's immediate community or ethnic group. He challenged the prevailing norms and prejudices of the time. To love one's neighbor as oneself meant to treat others with the same care, compassion, and respect that one desired for oneself. It was a call to empathy and understanding, to see the humanity in every individual. It meant putting the needs of others before one's own, demonstrating empathy, generosity, and a willingness to forgive. This radical love was meant to break down barriers and build a community rooted in mutual respect and kindness. Love your neighbor as yourself. The command to love one's neighbor as oneself challenged the self-centeredness and indifference that often characterized human relationships. It called for a radical shift in perspective, from a focus on one's own needs and desires to a genuine concern for the well-being of others. This interconnectedness between loving God and loving others was further emphasized by Jesus when he declared, "On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets," Matthew 22:40. The entirety of God's revealed will could be summarized in these two great commandments. To obey God's commands was, at its core, to love Him and to love others. Jesus' response to the lawyer's question provided a radical simplification of the Jewish law, cutting through the complexities and legalistic interpretations to reveal its true essence. It was a call to move beyond a merely external adherence to rules and regulations to embrace a transformative love that flowed from the inside out. This emphasis on love as the fulfillment of the law was not a dismissal of the importance of obedience. When one truly loved God and loved others, obedience to His commands flowed effortlessly from a heart transformed by grace. The Greatest Commandment, as articulated by Jesus, also addressed a subtle but pervasive temptation in the human heart, the temptation to seek God for what He could provide rather than for who He was. This commandment calls us to examine our motives and intentions, urging us to move beyond a superficial relationship with the divine. It was easy to fall into the trap of viewing God as a cosmic vending machine, dispensing blessings in exchange for religious rituals and good deeds. This transactional mindset reduces the profound and sacred relationship with God to mere exchanges, where faith becomes a currency rather than a heartfelt connection. However, Jesus' emphasis on love as the greatest commandment challenged this transactional view of faith. He called for a deeper, more authentic connection, one that is rooted in genuine love and devotion. This love is not about what we can get, but about who God is and the relationship we build with Him. To love God with all one's heart, soul, and strength meant seeking Him for the sheer joy of knowing Him. It is about experiencing the profound peace and joy that comes from being in His presence and finding comfort in His unwavering love. It meant finding one's ultimate satisfaction and fulfillment in Him alone. This kind of love transforms our lives, giving us a sense of purpose and direction that is anchored in something far greater than ourselves. This pure and unadulterated love for God formed the foundation for a genuine and transformative relationship with Him. It is a love that transcends circumstances, a love that remains steadfast and true, guiding us through life's challenges and triumphs. The Greatest Commandment, as revealed by Jesus, stands as the cornerstone of the Christian faith. It is the foundational principle upon which all other teachings and commands are built. To love God with all one's heart, soul, and strength is to embark on a lifelong journey of surrender, transformation, and intimacy with the Creator. It is to allow God's love to permeate every aspect of one's being. And to love one's neighbor as oneself is to be an ambassador of God's love in a broken and hurting world. It is to reflect the very heart of God, who loved the world so much that He gave His one and only Son. The greatest commandment, therefore, is not a burden to be borne, but a joyful invitation to experience the fullness of life in Christ. It is a call to live in the freedom and abundance that come from knowing and loving God with all that one is. And it is a call to be a reflection of that love in a world desperately in need of hope, compassion, and grace. As followers of Jesus, may we embrace the challenge and the joy of living out the greatest commandment, allowing God's love to transform our hearts and to flow through us to touch the lives of those around us.
If you enjoyed this video, please like it, leave a comment, and if you are not subscribed, subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to not miss any videos like this one.